My name is Andresa Silva, and I will be doing my presentation on the topic community policing. So first, let's take a look at community policing before we look at the articles. So community policing is a strategy of policing that focuses on developing relationships with community members. So it allows police officers to a particular area so that they become familiar with the local community. The first article is named Community Policing Least Effective Where Need is Greatest. The data collected for this study was done by survey. It aimed to understand where community policing works best. It analyzed social cohesion, community policing variables, and collective efficacy. The data was collected from a national survey of city managers. It first analyzed how factors connected to community policing is connected to perceptions of safety, community participation, and youth services. The form of survey was created based on the ideas from different focus groups held around the country in 2012, with participation of city managers and planners to talk about community activity to create planning and service delivery that meets the needs of children and seniors. Um, so during the survey, questions about policing, active policing, trust of police, and neighborhood watch were asked. They also measured community perceptions of safety, social cohesion, and attitudes toward children and seniors, both of them means and as groups that uh, need special services. One big advantage of this data set is the wide analysis of suburban and rural counties. So let's take a look at the results. The most important fact in the results is that community policing variables are most likely not significant on perceptions of community participation or safety in any models. There was a consistent positive influence of community policing across metro status with youth service, where both citizen and police participation are positively connected with youth services. Um, when talking about rural communities, police trust also leads to more service for youth. And there was the results reflected an important difference between urban and rural. Trust influences more community participation in the metro core. That was one of the main results. So the next article is named Bridging the Gap, School Resource Officers as Bridge Builders in the Community Policing Area. So this second study focused on whether the incentives supporting the law enforcement role of school resource officers may be comparatively straightforward, as it's not very clear as to why school resource officers should implicate themselves with no law enforcement roles. Um, the main question that this study is trying to answer is, why should a police officer in the school seek to counsel, mentor, or educate students when those actions are outside uh, when those actions fall outside of their training and may clash with the duties of other school personnel? So the study is wondering, how should they explain the motivation of the matter? Um, and how and eventually they want to ask, how do school resource officers explain the motivation behind their involvement in non-law enforcement roles? So the data collected in this study was through a research project analyzing school resource officers in public schools. The data was collected by interviewing school resource officers in different public schools. So there was a total of 30 potential school resource officers, and 26 agreed to participate in the study. And during the interview, many topics were explored. They were asked about daily activities, major roles and responsibilities, job-related training, and their perspectives on job duties. So let's look at the results. So officers interviewed say that they felt like they had an ability to influence at-risk students and connect them to resources. And then they said that they meant, when they said at-risk students, they meant those that are poor upbringing and live in bad neighborhoods, and that those are likely to have low academic achievement and no success in the community and essentially end up in jail or prison. So the school resource officers looked for this type of kids to influence and build a relationship because they felt like they were the least likely to trust the police, so they could maybe facilitate their trust with police if it started early. The data showed 4 different types of bridges that these officers could build. And the first one was the bridges to those in school. The second one, bridges to the community, bridges to success, and finally bridges to the police. So all of them are connected, starting from their connection in school with the police. So this study concludes that the school resource officers report acting as educators and informal counselors. The results showed that the officers connected with non-enforcement roles for the primary ends of looking out for at-risk students who would slip through gaps at school when they attempted to bridge the gap. Uh, a school resource officer may make the effort to connect a student in need to key community organizations or make the effort to fix public to police relations by stepping into the classroom and trying to educate students on how to navigate communications with officers. So now let's look at the relationship between both articles. So both articles had its studies focus on social disorder and crime through the delivery or police services that involve aspects of traditional law enforcement, as well as prevention, problem solving, and community engagement and partnerships. So the similarities that both had was that they were both trying to measure police relationship with the community, and both articles are recent. Like uh, one article was conducted in 2017. I mean, it was published in 2017, and the other article was published in 2019. Both seek to find ways to better community policing in order to reduce crime. The differences are that first study performed a quantitative research, and the data they collected data through survey, and they had a large sample of individuals. It was 1,478 individuals who participated in the survey. And the second performed a qualitative research, and it was done through interviews. And it only had a small focus group of the 26 officers who agreed to participate and to be interviewed. Um, so although both are conducted differently, they both seek to find ways to better community policing in order to reduce crime. Thank you.